Today we're joined by Kourosh, who is the founder at Waves.
Waves is pretty straightforward. It's a community tool specifically for Slack communities. Over time, my responsibilities turned into like a community manager's responsibilities. Yeah, that's how I first fell into community. And it just continued from there. Been in communities for like 4 years now.
And you also have a bit of a background in tech and product. I imagine there's a nice correlation and crossover there as well.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's the greatest thing in the entire world when like product and community work together.
Being product minded but also community focused is a bit of a beauty there, because you can kind of bring those insights from product manager world into community manager world.
And I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing you can do in the entire world, where you have people who consume your stuff or buy your product or whatever, and they're also talking to you, and they're talking to each other.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you say hello? Hello and welcome to the Digital Community Managers podcast, where we chat with community managers, champions and founders about their experience leading and supporting digital communities. My name's Pete Heslop and I lead the team here at Steadfast Collective, and we exist to craft digital applications that bring people together. We created the Digital Community Podcast to be a bite-sized look into what it takes to grow, scale and start digital communities. Today we're joined by Kourosh, who is the founder at Waves. Why don't you say hello?
Hey. And thank you for reaching out and thank you for having me here.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Waves is and what you're up to with it?
Yeah, sure. Waves is pretty straightforward. It's a community tool specifically for Slack communities. It originally started out with me being annoyed by the Slack message limit, where back then you would lose messages after 10K. After 10,000 messages, and I saw why that's okay for like businesses who talk on Slack, but not really for communities, because like you would lose these conversations. So we started out building a tool just for you to be able to save your messages and put them on a library that your community members can always see. But then, as it happens, you get customers, they ask for features. Some of those features are analytics, some of them are automations. So at this point, we're analytics, automations, exporting messages, and a lot of little things in between, specifically for Slack.
Nice. And you do quite a lot of writing about community and community management. What drew you into community management in kind of the first place?
Yeah, so at university, I started a little community for like university founders and anyone who has the ambitions to like start a business. And it was called Almost Founders. And it wasn't actually, we didn't start it with the intention of it being a community. It started out being like an event series and a podcast, but we just built a WhatsApp group around it because it just felt natural. And over time, my responsibilities just really turned into like a community manager's responsibilities, like managing the WhatsApp group, making sure that every touch point with with our little thing where every touch point was delightful. So it was just like managing the people in the WhatsApp group, managing our community outside of the WhatsApp group as well. And I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing you can do in the entire world, where you have people who consume your stuff or buy your product or whatever, and they're also talking to you, and they're talking to each other, and you learn more about your own product. They get to learn more about each other. And it was just like our competitive advantage or something, or that's what it felt like at that time. And yeah, that's how I first fell into community. And it just continued from there. It was that community I managed first, and I did like little like bits of community work for other companies. But yeah, been in communities for like 4 years now.
Nice. And you also have a bit of a background in kind of tech and product. And do you want to kind of dig into, like, from my experience, like those who are running product teams or kind of working around digital products, you're constantly talking to your customers and your community. So I imagine there's a nice correlation and crossover there as well.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's the greatest thing in the entire world when like product and community work together. So during Almost Founders, I did a little bit of an analysis of how our people are talking to each other. And what happened was that a group of similar individuals would start a conversation in the wider chat. Then they would go out there and create their own group and continue talking with just between themselves, right? And we wanted to replicate that and kind of like productize it. Like, I'm going to find you the other people who are like you and put you in these little groups. And we did that. And that was also called Waves back then.
Mm.
And as part of that, we had to create a website, a flow where people sign up, onboarding material that we send out to people, just a lot of product work around activation and retention. And that's how I kind of fell into product. And I don't know how nowadays you can actually avoid falling into tech. Like,
Mm.
if you want to build cool stuff, it usually involves tech. So I just had to become a little bit better around that as well. And yeah, that's when I also fell in love with product, because especially when you're small and especially when you're working on like a tiny little thing and you're the only decision maker, it's instant gratification. Like, you figure out something's not going well, so you test it like 15 different times and it works out in the end, and you're making people's lives a little better, similar to community, right? And that's how I fell into it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I like it. It's good.
Yeah. And the way we use community now with Waves is that we just have a little Slack channel, right? Where people talk to each other, they talk about the products, they give us feedback, they riff on each other's ideas. And that is like what you look for as a product manager, because
Mm.
as people, like, we like talking to customers, but getting those customers on a call and getting them actually engaged is really
Yeah.
difficult. So knowing that the community does the work for you in real time blows my mind. Still to this day, blows my mind.
Yeah, the amount of effort that products, apps and whatnot put into surveying customers, offering gift cards, all of that stuff. And if they just had a really active community around them, they would have ideas left, right, and center. There'd be no need to do any of that because there would be such a wash of people who want to tell them what's going on, what they like, what they don't like. I just think about the Mozo forums, like the British bank Mozo. Um, Monzo, sorry, and their forums were so active around, their beta stage and people wanting this feature and that feature and helping to guide kind of the future of what the bank looks like.
Exactly, exactly. And you can also see like who's a super user in the community. Are they a super user on the app?
Mm,
Does their feedback come from a different place? Um, just a ton of really, really good insights. I feel like community is the only true way to automate product discovery. Um, but also, like, the community comes with a zillion other benefits, right? All
yeah.
of these amazing things. So it's like 15 birds, one stone kind of thing, right?
I like that. Nice. Well, let's dig into some of the questions we've got lined up for today. So, when you're building community, whether kind of small, big, whatever it is, what is your number one tip for trying to grow that community? And grow might be grow in terms of health as well as maybe grow in terms of numbers.
Mm, I think so. The current Waves community is difficult to grow because, like, we just invite people who use the product, and a
Hmm.
lot of people who use the product just don't join the community. But back from all of my other community experience, it was always much easier keeping the happy people happy and making them happier than
Mm,
figure out why there are lurkers in the community or there are silent people in the community or whatever. um, Whenever we wanted to grow, we just reached out to our best members and asked, what else could we improve? What else could we do for you? And we knew that on the back of that, we just get referrals and word of mouth, right? So you
mm,
just get far more high quality new joiners in there who already were convinced because they were brought in. Um, but in general, I think it just comes down to like speaking to people all the time, figuring out what their motivation was for joining the community, finding the common patterns, like the common personas as well, and just going towards that.
mm,
Way too many communities out there today who say that we're community for founders. And it's like, that's not enough. Like, what do you mean? What's the stage? What's the location?
mm.
What's the sector? What is it? Right? So speak to people, keep your super users happy, make them happier, and niche down. Always niche down until you find like that magic thing where it just grows.
How how do you decide how far to niche?
Mm,
Because you could go real specific. Like how do you balance that between you don't want it to be so specific it's exclusive, but also you want it to be useful to people and get the right people in the room?
mm, I guess to a point where, God, this is a really good question. I mean, obviously, you're not going to go to like, we only want founders at this stage who live on this street in London, right?
Yeah.
Um, to a point where I would say to a point where you know that any interaction between members can yield some value, where I can
Mm,
confidently say that member A and member X, if they get together, they're gonna be able to talk about something related to the
mm,
topic of the community, right? So what I never really understand are those communities where it's like founders and mentors or like founders and investors. It's like, yeah, it makes sense to bring them two together, but like, should they really be in a single community?
mm,
Um, it'll make sense to you, like when it works. The good thing, like the annoying thing about building stuff is that you don't know when it will work, but when it works, you know it. Like
mm.
when it actually clicks, like you know it.
That's good.
Um, yeah. So the deepest niche we ever had with Waves was a group for founders at the early stage in health tech. And within health tech, the focus was on machine learning. And within machine learning, the focus was on cancer prevention. And it still worked. Like we found people.
Okay.
But I feel like that was the limit.
Nice. Nice. And then similar sort of question, I guess around we've talked about kind of progressing your community forward and growing it, but in terms of like engagement, like what are you doing as a community founder to try and ensure that people are engaged and it's a place that they want to continue coming back to, not just sit in the background and kind of watch it all unfold?
Mm, just talk to people. Literally, that's my only advice always. Just talk to people. And every member joins a community with a specific goal, like with
Mm,
something they want to get to. And if you just continuously ask yourself, like, am I putting stuff out there or giving opportunities every single day that get members towards that goal in a meaningful, valuable way, then I think you should be good. But also, this is very abstract. The actual way to do it is to continuously talk to members, make sure they're somehow emotionally bought into the community, put good content out there, put good initiatives in place, make sure that the foundation of your community is strong. Like, don't expect members to, once they leave, show back up again if you just don't have an email
mm.
flow that tries to reactivate inactive members, right?
Nice. And I guess that's where that kind of magic of being product minded but also community focused is a bit of a beauty there because you can kind of bring those insights from product manager world into community manager world and go, actually you're right, if community member not engaged for x number of days, maybe we could drop them an email or flag a cm to say, by the way, did you know John's no longer responding to messages, do you want to check in on him, or those kind of things? And I guess that kind of gives you the insight into to both sides of the coin, both, you know, both bits of the world.
Yeah, exactly. I think sometimes we try to think that community is more nuanced than it actually is,
Mm,
because what community is like a lot of human relationships, and human relationships are complicated, they're nuanced. So we think whenever it comes to a specific solution, it's got to be nuanced. Like, let's take the example of I want people to refer, like, just spread the word about my community. Um, I can either go at it in a way of thinking like, okay, so what leads a person to share stuff? Like, what can I do on a daily basis in the community that really motivates people to share stuff? But in the real world, it's like, put a link out there that people can share and say, can you please share this community?
yeah,
We're trying to grow, or like, we're trying to
yeah,
do X, Y, Z. Like, just, it doesn't always have to be super complicated.
yeah. That's fair. And yes, simple is often the best thing, but it's that relationship, right? You got to have those relationships with that people, because otherwise you're just some random guy sharing a link asking a favor from someone. But if you've already given them tons of value, then there's a reason why they might want to repay that, that favor, that value with a favor. So it's good. I like it. I like the simplicity of it, of just kind of get stuff done. Um, so obviously, Waves is growing. You're pleased with how things are going. What is the biggest challenge, that you've had over the last 12 months?
We're just so bad at sales. I can't tell you how bad we are at sales. Like both my co-founder and I, it is ridiculous how bad we are at sales. Both my co-founder, we're builders. We're just builders. We're not the sellers. We're not marketers either. So every like 3 months, we say the people who use our product really seem to like our product.
Mm,
Maybe we could grow for real if we just send some cold emails. And then we both say, okay, this week we're going to do cold emails. No, immediately no. The next bug comes in, the next feature request comes in, we're like 2 weeks from now. So I know exactly what it takes to grow waves. I don't know if I'm going to do it though. Um, because honestly, I'm just enjoying my time right now. And like, I have a full-time job. So like, as long as I'm making my current people happy, I'm happy.
sure.
I don't have like the ambitions of I guess a normal founder who wants to like grow to a point where they can raise money. I just want to wake up every day and have fun.
Nice. So you just talked about like what your ambitions are there around kind of your ambitions of what you want to be doing, but do you have anything in the pipeline for the next 12 months of what you kind of would love Waves to become, or what you'd like your role at Waves to become?
Mm, this is boring, but if it stays the exact same, I'd be pretty happy,
Okay,
to be
so not
honest.
down, just the same or up.
Yeah, the same or up, exactly. So I think we're getting better at building useful features.
Mm,
Um, we're getting better at understanding our customers, and our daily active usage is going up, which always means good things. Our activation rates go up. Something that I want to keep the exact same way it is right now is I want to know every single user of Waves. I
hmm.
think I know every single user of Waves, and I feel like I have a good, friendly relationship with every single one of them. And I don't want that to change, really. I never want to look at the database and be like, who is this person? Um, so yeah, that's why that might also be a reason why we never went for like crazy growth. I like this like community-ish feeling between a builder and the users.
Nice. And you're writing quite a bit of content. First of all, where can people read your content? But also, what's the driving force behind you writing kind of these articles around community management and community?
Well, business reason is SEO.
Hmm.
Just being there on Google is SEO is like every what's it called? When you're an extro introvert, SEO is like every introvert's marketing dream, right? Because you
Sure.
don't actually have to go out there and like put yourself out there. So we write content for SEO purposes, and that is just on the general Waves blog. So if you just go to meetwaves.com, you can click on the blog button in the top menu, and we put that out there. But I stopped writing that content. It's written by one of our marketing guys. His name is Georgi. He's a superstar.
Okay.
He's a superstar. I love that guy. He writes great content. But personally, I write in a newsletter that we have. It's called the Slack Community Manager newsletter, and it's on Substack. Um, and that content I write because they're mostly my thoughts around community. They're not as actionable as our blog is.
Hmm.
They're my thoughts. So like one time I wrote, I think the best performing one is an issue I wrote, which was community hot takes, where I just vented about like what I don't like about the community industry. Yeah.
Nice. I like it. Well, thanks so much for sharing about Waves, and thanks so much for sharing your tips and ideas and thoughts around community. If people have got questions or they want to reach out, where's the best place for people to find you personally? Obviously, there's Meet Waves, but how about you personally?
Personally, I am, first of all of the Slack community manager communities. So the community club, common rooms community, CMX. So if you just search for Kourosh, well, that's terrible, right? Because no one can spell my name probably. So if you search for Kourosh and spell my name right, you will find me there. But you can find me on Twitter, where I'm most active, and
Nice.
my handle is Building Waves. So at Building Waves.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining us today, and sharing your expertise. Really do appreciate it. And I know that whenever I'm in a Slack community with yourself, I know people always really appreciate you and your input and your wealth of knowledge that you share around. People really do appreciate it. So it's good.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. And this was delightful. Thank you.
Fab. Until next time. Thank you.